welcome to my channel. I'm going to show you how to make this turtleneck t-shirt. I'm making a short sleeve version, perfect for fall layering. So follow along and you can make one too. So first I'm just cutting out the fabric with my very professional weights, aka my dollar store notebook and a Hobby Lobby cup. So the fabric really wasn't too hard to cut out. With the stretchy thin fabric, like it does get a little slippery, but it's not too bad. There's going to be a front, a back, and the sleeves, and the neck binding. So there's really only 5 pieces, very simple. This is the neck binding, and later on I actually end up cutting it out a second time and then adding an inch, because whenever I sewed it together and it's a connected circle, it actually was a little too small. It went on, but just it had to be forced on, and so I ended up recutting it. So I do mention this later on, but whenever you're making it, remember to try it on before you sew it to the actual bodice. And here I'm just marking off where I'm going to be cutting the fabric off, where the hem is going to be, because I went ahead and put it together as a long sleeve because that's what the pattern came as, because later on I am going to make a long sleeve version, but I want a short sleeve because it is 90 degrees most days. It's Texas, so long sleeve just doesn't really work. So I kind of just eyeballed it. I just held up the sleeve to where it's going to hit and then just kind of eyeballed where I wanted it to go. And then as you can see here, I'm just kind of notching where the hem is going to be, where I wrote out with the line. I'm just kind of notching that and then tracing around the top and then laying the ruler out and doing a straight line like that. And here I'm marking with chalk. The front and the back pieces just look so similar, and especially the front and back of the fabric, like right side, wrong side, also looks very much the same. So I just marked it with some chalk to help me realize where the back is. So now I'm just putting the back piece right side up, putting the front piece right side down, so right sides are together, and then I'm just going to pin and sew at the shoulder seam. And here I'm just taking a piece of scrap fabric. I don't sew stretchy fabrics often, and so I just wanted to play around with the settings on my machine to see what was going to work the best. So just go with a zigzag stitch no matter what. You can play around with the width a little bit, but that's just going to be your preference. But do a zigzag stitch because it's stretchy fabric. If you do a straight stitch, it's more liable to snap. But right here, just sewing the shoulder seams, really quick and easy. Now I am taking I have it actually wrong side up. That is incorrect. I had to go back and redo this. But you're going to put the fabric down right side up because you are going to sew right sides together. And with this kind of fabric, it is obviously stretchy, and then I went with a thinner fabric. It is a little bit slippery, so don't be shy with using pins, I would say, because it just helps when you go to sew it. So sewing all around the armhole. And here my thread actually snapped. I didn't use a polyester thread. I just grabbed the closest black thread and was like, oh, it won't make a difference. So I don't know if that was the problem or if it was a tension thing, but throughout this process, my thread actually snapped 3 times, which was surprising because this isn't exactly a tough fabric. So play around with your settings and use polyester and a stretch needle if you have it. So now that it is looking like an actual t-shirt, we're just going to sew along the side seams. And you're going to start at the hem of the sleeve, work your way through that little curve at the armpit, and then just down the side. So one continuous go. And if you have the long sleeve version, it's the exact same, except it's just a longer sleeve, but the process is obviously the exact same. And just be careful watching the fabric so that the one on the bottom, the layer on the bottom, doesn't get tucked under. And here, just trying it on, making sure that it fits good, making sure that the sleeves are the same length, since I did kind of eyeball that. And now I'm doing the neck binding. I'm just going to be putting right sides together, pinning and sewing. And then also taking some chalk and marking the center. That's going to be useful later. And this is where I'm actually recutting the fabric because, like I said, I tried it on and it went over, but it was a little too forced. And then especially considering I might have already like done my hair, done my makeup, whatever, I didn't want to have to struggle with that. And here I'm just going to be marking the center front and the center back on the bodice. This is where it's going to help us line up that neck binding. So now you're just going to take the neck binding that is a circle and you're just going to be folding wrong sides together. Hot dog style, if that's what you learned in kindergarten. So here you're just going to have the shirt inside out. You're going to put the neck binding inside the bodice. So the right sides are going to be together and start pinning in place. So you're going to take the back seam, line it up with the center back, take the center front of the neck binding, line it up with the center front of the bodice, and then just start pinning around from there. So that'll just make sure that everything is even. And once again, don't be shy about using pins, especially on a step like this, where you have 3 layers that you're trying to make sure that they line up. So it's just easier to be excessive with the pins, and then you can just don't have to babysit it as much with the actual sewing. And remember to start and stop the sewing at a seam, just so if there's any kind of pinching or anything left over from the back stitching, it's not noticeable. So here, start the stitching at the center back, so where that seam is. And here I'm just checking everything over. There's a couple of little areas in the neck where I can see that it pinched a little bit, but it's not noticeable enough for me to seam rip it and redo it. So I am pretty happy with the way it turned out, especially whenever the fabric is on and it's pulled taut, it's not going to be noticeable. If it does bother you and it happens with your sewing project, then you can just redo it. Now I'm just going to do the hemming. This is the final step, and then we'll be done hemming the sleeves and the waistband. I'm just going to fold it up 1/4 of an inch and pin it all the way around. And once again, be sure to start the sewing at the seam. So start and end, so that any back stitching, any threads, anything, that it's not going to be seen. And then here, just the same thing with the waistband. What I would suggest is doing one piece at a time. So do pin the right sleeve, sew the right sleeve, pin the left, sew the left, etc. Just because this fabric is, like I said, it's a little bit slippery, and so the pins don't stay as well as with some others. So that's what I would suggest. So now we are finally done, and considering this is my second time sewing stretchy fabrics, I'm very happy with how it turned out. The fit was good. Aside from some of that issues with the thread snapping, it was not really, it was a pretty easy sew, so I'm happy with it. So here's the final product. I'm really happy with the fit. and it's stretchy black fabric. Ugh, I can't say that. Stretchy black fabric. It's kind of hard to see any of the details, but the fit's really good. I'm really glad that I redid the neck binding and lengthened it by about 1 inch. So whenever you're making this, definitely try it on beforehand, because even if it goes on, just remember, you might have already fixed your hair, you might already have your makeup on, and if you have to force something down over your head, you're gonna have to redo some things. So anyways, test out the neck binding before you put it on the actual shirt. And aside from the fact that it's a stretchy fabric and sometimes those can be a little bit slippery, it was a really quick and easy sew, and I only used a sewing machine. So if you don't have a serger, don't be intimidated to do some of these stretchy fabrics. Yes, it might be better or easier if you have one, but you can still do all of these stretchy fabric projects just using a zigzag stitch on a regular sewing machine. I have like a 50-year-old singer that used to be my grandma's, and I can make any number of things, so don't let that stop you. And my next project is actually gonna be a satin bias cut midi skirt that I had this t-shirt in mind. I've seen so many outfits on Pinterest where it's that kind of silky satin bias cut skirt, and it's either with a t-shirt or it's with a sweater. So my next project is actually gonna be making that skirt. So if you want to have the total outfit, definitely come for the next video and I'll show you how to make one. This is the final product, and I'm actually, So this is the final product. And I'm really happy with, So this is the final, stretchy back fabric. Pretty quick and easy sew. Even while trying to film, I still got through it pretty fast, so it shouldn't take you any time at all. So here's the final product, but that's just nitpicky, it's not really that cold, so that's why I did a short, some of the more layering, long sleeve things, that still works for me.